All right, guys, welcome back to Reinvented. Today I have, it's Bridgitte, right?
Yes, Bridgitte.
Okay. Um, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I'm Bridgitte Hammaker, and I'm an experienced therapist for over 20 years. I have a very rich and diverse background in therapy, working with all ages and different types of modalities. I am also a coach for mid-career people who want to work on de-stressing, feeling more calm, returning to having more balance and joy in their life. So those are the two areas that I'm working in.
And is there like a message, I guess, you kind of want to send to people?
I think the main, because, in the theme of reinvented, I think the main message that I would like people to hear and keep in mind is that do not underestimate the power of small changes because they add up over time. And in an experienced person's life, you start to see how the small decisions that you make, the small ways you add habits or reduce habits, they accumulate over time to take you to different places that you might not have thought you'd get to.
And then also, like, what would you say, like, in terms of like the steps you would take to make small changes? Like, what steps would, I guess, you recommend to someone?
hmm Uh, there's a book out called Atomic Habits, and it talks a lot about, and I really like the theme and the way they break it down. And it fits very well into what we're talking about in this small step. So the idea is that our brain is very full and it doesn't want to do new things. It wants to do things it knows how to do that are familiar. That's why the patterns that we have in our life are repeated and we keep going back to them over and over again. It's just like if you're driving to work and then one day you don't have to think about it anymore. It's because it's become internalized and your mind is happy that it doesn't have to think. So that's what we're trying to do with habits. We want to do something very small that is maybe attached to things that we already do. So that getting dressed in the morning, you already have your workout clothes ready or your work clothes. Or if you're trying to take medicine regularly, you pair it with your coffee because the old habits that you have and routines that you have ingrained will help you build a new habit and keep it small, keep it simple. Think of, like if I want to go to the gym and develop a pattern of working out, the most important thing is that I probably get dressed for the gym. Because if I haven't done that, the next step is a little harder. So you do things to prepare yourself ahead of time. And it's not about how long you stay at the gym or how long you went for the walk. It's the fact that you got out there, even if it's for 2 minutes. And when you're thinking about physical health, some of the research coming out talks about if you move for 2 minutes 3 times a day, I don't mean like a slow walk, like something more moderate, you can reduce mortality by 40%. That's not my research. I'm repeating what I'm hearing from doctors. So, but that's incredible, isn't it? That 2 minutes 3 times a day can reduce mortality by that much, or maybe even more.
And then I was also gonna say with like the like I guess even though it's like not your research, like the 2 minutes per day, is there like a way like say like someone's like doing that, maybe they are going to the gym, like they're trying I guess trying to find new habits per se. Is it trying to like think of how to phrase this, but like what if they like went to the gym and it's like they were doing fine for say like a week and then it's like the next week it's like I guess what people would call a bad week. Do you like I guess kind of agree with like the term good days, bad days?
Um, I would not label a backslide as bad. It's normal human behavior. You're learning a new habit, so it's great that you start things, but you have to be able to let go of the fact that you didn't reach the goal you wanted and just retry and think about what you can do instead of what you can't do. So if you wake up and you're like, I don't think I can go do a 30-minute workout. I'm tired. I didn't get enough sleep. My muscles are aching. Well, what could you do? Is today a day you need to do a walk instead of a gym, weightlifting routine? Um, if you're very busy and you don't have the same time today that you usually have, well, what could you fit in a small way? So if you're at a corporate office, take a walk around the office a couple of times. Go and talk to someone instead of sending the email. Just to do things that are within your time frame so that you're increasing your goal of more steps or movement.
And then like also, I guess kind of what made you want to do like the path you chose? Like was there like a I guess a revolutionary like moment in your life that you realized like this is like what I want to do? Or was it just something I guess that kind of happened?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I've always enjoyed people, working with people. I had thought about doing business. I had thought about doing personnel management. I had thought about doing psychology. So that's another message. You don't have to have it all figured out when you're starting out in your career or your education. So I changed through all of those. And when I met people in the clinical social work department, I was like, well, this is more in line with what I want to do. I want to work with people. I didn't see myself being a researcher. I did not see myself being a college professor. So it really felt in line with what I enjoy. And as far as mental health, my grandmother was very depressed, and I was very close with her. And my whole life, I saw this wonderful person who struggled with depression. So I really did have it in the back of my mind, like, why do people get depressed like this? What can help people like this? It's a fascinating field. And when you live through experiences like that, sometimes you have more compassion and curiosity. So I think that also was a pivotal moment for me in going in the direction I've gone.
And then I guess like with going like I guess when you started out, what was like one thing I think like either you like or I guess people misunderstood about you, like maybe going into it, people were just like they thought they knew you and they didn't.
Um, well, I think there's still a large stigma around mental health and sometimes even coaching, and people don't always understand it and um, think that it might be harder than it would be, or that you're going to try to analyze them if you're just an acquaintance or a friend, and you really don't have time to do that. So that would be something. Or sometimes people will really want to talk to you a lot because you're easy to talk to. So in social situations, you may find out a lot of information that other people just don't hear.
Uh, what do you think your biggest failure is, and what did you learn from it?
What is my biggest failure? Well, I think I went through a divorce. I'm not sure I want to say it was a failure, but it's something that I didn't want. And sometimes people grow apart. So are you failures because you grew apart? I wouldn't say so. However, it's a very difficult and painful experience for both the people going through it and for the children. And I don't think anybody who has a family wants their children to go through that.
Did I mean, like, did you, I guess, know anyone that ever went through that, or as a child, or did you ever go through that as a child?
Yes, I was the product of a divorced family, and we really didn't live together but for a short time in my life. So that's probably one of the reasons that it meant so much to me that I would like to have a family and keep it as a unit. And that was the goal going in, right? So I'm sure it did have an effect on how I felt about all that.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be and why?
If I could be remembered for one thing, I guess it would just be a good parent and friend. That the closest relationships to me felt the meaning that we've had together was positive and a loving experience.
What's one way you try, or at least try to like keep, like your close relationships, like make it a positive experience for them?
Well, that's different depending on the relationship, but relationships take work. They take an investment of time. That's why we can't have, too many friends. You can have people that you know or like to hang out with and do things with, but close relationships like your inner circle, your family and your closest friends, you have to reach out. You have to be supportive. Um, it's reciprocal. You can't always wait for them to call you. Sometimes you have to call them. Sometimes it's figuring out what it is they need from you. When they're talking to you, are they just looking for support? Are they looking for an idea? What do they need? And see what you can do to be a support without being overly judgmental, solution focused, or directive, because people often just want to bounce ideas off of you,
Um,
which is harder as a parent.
um, like what would you say, like if, or I guess maybe in your experience, like if someone like was saying they had problems with a relationship, like they felt like it was one, like, and it doesn't have to be like, like love relationships, but like if they felt like it was one-sided and they tried to say it was, they tried to, I guess fix it per se, but like I guess it felt one-sided.
But then you have to do some personal introspection because you already said they felt like they've tried to fix it. They've tried to reach out. They've tried to be there for them. They've tried to be supportive. And sometimes friends are with us for a time period, but not our whole life. Or sometimes friends are with us based on the context that we know them. For instance, if you work in a certain corporation, a lot of your friends may be based in your work. But if you switch careers or change your job, the friendships are going to change and not all of them are going to go with you. So you deserve to have relationships with people who care as much about you as you do them. And when people care about you, they do try to reciprocate friendships. That doesn't mean that there aren't times in their life where things are going on. So there are many things that keep people busy, and especially the older they get and they start having children and careers or family situations, So you do need to consider all of those things too. Like, is this temporary? Are they usually more involved and reciprocal, or is this a pattern that's hurtful and not supporting me?
I guess, do you agree with the saying of like if it's meant, I believe it's like if it's meant to be, they'll come back. If it's not, they won't. Like, um, and that's like the base of saying. I know that's not the exact wording, but
I think that would be in line with kind of letting go of the responsibility of control for the relationship. Like, I have to do something to make this work. Um, your responsibility is to be engaged, but not to be the person to make it work all the time. So sometimes you do have to let go and just see how they feel and what they're able to do, which is hard, you know. And it's hard, especially if one person wants it more than the other. It's hard to let go of that. So I'd say, you know, look around at some maybe occupying your time in other ways so that you have a more full life, whether they come back to interact or not.
and then so what's the best compliment you've ever gotten?
Uh, one Mother's Day, both my kids went shopping independently, and they both came home with mugs and signs saying, "You were right, Mom." So that was kind of fun.
All
Not
right,
that I
and then
always was right, but I just saw it as they felt like I tried to do my best.
or that they should have listened. All right, what's an insult that you've received that you're proud of?
Um, I'm a Democrat, but said in an insulting way.
Oh, yeah, had that.
I think we
Let's
really
see.
need to be able to talk with each other, but when I when I had gotten an insult like that, it felt like that was someone I couldn't talk to.
Yeah, I feel like do you think like even though there are, I guess, differences in like it doesn't even have to be political beliefs, but just I guess beliefs in general, like even though they're different, do you like believe people should kind of talk about it because a lot of it you're pretty much fighting the same thing?
Yes, we often want similar things, but our method of how things should be gotten to the point is different. And how can we expect the world to get along if we can't talk to our family, our neighbors, and colleagues on both sides of this debate that we're in?
Yeah. Let's see. What is a funny story your family tells about you that you'd like to share?
Well, my youngest daughter likes to make up a book about old words that I use. So whenever I say something that sounds ancient, she loves to laugh and write it down and tell her friends and my other daughter about it. And then bring up times that I may have said something. An instance might be when I grew up, instead of calling it a purse, we call it a pocketbook. And they just think that is hilarious. What are you talking about, pocketbook? Or when my youngest daughter had a sleepover and they kept me up all night, I got up and marched in and said, "I didn't get a lick of sleep last night." So they just find that stuff funny.
And I do the same thing with both my parents. I make fun of them. I make
It's
fun of my
common,
dad.
isn't it?
I make fun of my dad the most. But
Something that you like to make fun of.
Okay, so I'm from Portland, but like, and as is my dad, but there's one time, like, I guess he did kind of grow up in a small little town in Missouri, so I guess he has this excuse. But I always used to joke with him because we would go into stores and he's like, "Do you want to go in a fitting room?" I'm like, I was like, "Oh, what?" Because he doesn't pronounce the G in it, and I'm like,
Right, right.
and he would get all mad. He's like, "A fitting room, a clothing room, changing room." Like, yeah, you want to add the G in there?
That
He's
is
like,
fun.
I did. I'm like, no, you didn't. Like, and now he uses that all the time because he's like, he knows that
Now
I
he
find
knows he uses it, yeah. I just
so.
watched, I don't know if it was a TikTok or on Facebook, but it was somebody talking about a game they would play at family functions. And the kids got together and they called it Mom Bingo. So whenever she said something that they knew she was going to say, and everybody would write down three things on their list. And then whoever got all three things marked off first would stand up and say bingo.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great
Hilarious.
that's a great idea for a video. Let's see. Um, how do you think your family would describe you?
Um, I think my kids think I'm a typical Virgo. I like to plan, I like to organize, want to make dates. I think my father would think that I'm a very good daughter, nice person. I think my friends would say that I'm very supportive and fun and they enjoy my company. We have a lot of fun together. I think that covers the family.
Let's see. Um, what has been your favorite job you've held? And it doesn't have to be like currently. It could be from like years ago if you want.
That is hard because I have loved my career. So I will put this in two different parts. Part one, when I was working for the school system as a clinical social worker, working with emotionally disturbed um, children, I loved working in the high school because at that age, they're young adults and they have more agency to make changes and do things to help themselves. And they really enjoy being able to have a safe place where they can talk about things without judgment, retribution, worry, or anger of adults that they care about. Because, you know, that age group, really doesn't want to make their parents angry. They don't want to worry their parents. Um, so sometimes they keep things inside and they feel like they don't know where to go with certain things. So I really enjoyed that. And then I retired from that job. So, what I'm doing right now with a partial private practice for therapy and then also coaching is extremely fun and exciting. It's a huge learning curve with technology and marketing and meeting people from all over the country, different parts of the world. So this has really been a blast for me.
Does it bring new experiences every day? I
I would
guess.
so yes. I've met colleagues because I'm more in the virtual world. I've met colleagues that I would have never met because they're from all over the country and the UK. I have met up with some of them and had some great fun experiences. And I'm continuing to do things like this where I'm not just guesting on podcasting, but having virtual meetups where we get to know each other's business and how, we can benefit each other, and look for like ways to refer people that need certain things that might be out of my realm, and then I have ideas of other people that I can share it with. So it's a lot of fun.
And what's one thing you like to do in your free time?
One thing I like to do in my free time, salsa dance. I love Latin dancing. It's good exercise. It's fun. Um, the people love to dance, and everybody's dancing. So that's something I enjoy.
Is it like, I guess, does it feel good to, I guess, kind of move around?
Absolutely. Yes. Especially, having a sedentary job, like working with people like I do, um, that's something I try to think about is what can I do that's different and that can allow me to move but have fun.
Let's see. What does your morning routine look like?
Um, you know, that's a really good discussion for reinventing yourself right there, because going from the pandemic and retirement to where I am now has been several years of change and figuring out, what did I want that routine to look like? At first, getting as much sleep as possible was the most important thing. Then it turned into getting up earlier just because I wanted to do more in the day, or there's things I wanted to do in the morning. So right now, and this is my new routine, like within the last couple of weeks, I had just changed it again. So my routine now is to wake up around 6:30 or 7, have my cup of tea and some breakfast. Then I get on the computer and I do a task that's really important for my business, so that I feel like if I get nothing else done that day, I got that important part done. And by that time, I'm usually awake enough to go to the gym or go for a walk or do some type of a YouTube video with weights or yoga or Pilates. So do something physical. And that's how I get my day started. And I really, it feels good. But you might have to go through, if you're trying to figure out a good routine for yourself, be patient. You might have to try several things, and life changes. So your routine may change, but it's a nice idea to have the routine.
Do you feel like your routine, whether it's your morning routine or any routine, do you feel like it, I guess, kind of changes relatively frequently? Like maybe not every day, but maybe every like 2, 3 weeks.
No, it's the same. It's really right at this point, it's slight adjustments. Like I know that there's a certain thing I want to do for my business in the day, in the morning. And I know that having something nutritious to eat to start the day, and I know that some type of movement are my three priorities. And all of this, I guess, would involve mindfulness, being present with what you're doing and enjoying whatever activities you're doing, whether it's what you're eating or what the day looks like, or the people that you meet or the walk that you go on, being mindful while you're doing those things. But it's really at this point minor adjustments, like which one to do first, how long to do it, whether to do it for a longer period and skip days or do it every day, things like that.
And like I guess because I know like some people who like they pretty much it's pretty much the same routine, but they like switch stuff around. Like say in
Yeah.
their morning routine, they maybe started their day with like brushing their teeth, and then that's what they did for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then they decided maybe it's best if I get dressed first and then brush my teeth, and then get on with the rest of my morning. Like, do you ever? like it doesn't like have to stay directly the same, but do you ever
Yeah,
like I guess kind of switch the tasks
absolutely.
around?
Absolutely. And that's part of reinventing things, right? You want to see how it feels. How is it working for you? If it's working, great, keep doing it. But if you feel like there's an adjustment, like getting dressed first is going to be better for you than brushing your teeth first, absolutely go for that. You don't need to be rigid in saying, this is what I said and I have to do it this way. So that's how I incorporate the movement. So, um, there are days when maybe I'm extra tired because I stayed up late, or I was ill and I didn't feel too well, or I'm just achy from the day before. So when I wake up, I think about how does my body feel? What is my energy level? So last week, my energy level was kind of low because I had COVID for 2 weeks, then I had a cold for a week. So it was more simple movement. It was shorter movement. But if I got outside and walked for 10 minutes, I was happy because I didn't feel like it. Now, this week, I'm recovered from those things and my energy level's higher, and I was excited to go back to the gym. And then, today I know that tomorrow it's going to rain. So I said, well, I don't want to go to the gym today. I'm going to go for a walk and enjoy the sunshine while I have it. I couldn't go for the long walk that I wanted to, but I got outside. And I think today I went for a 2-minute walk because I had to hurry up and do something. But I will also look for another opportunity in the day and see what I can fit in.
All right, let's see. Let's find some fun questions. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
I have thought a great deal about this because when you retire, you can live anywhere. And the type of business that I do now is virtual. So that's one of the things I love is that no matter where I go, I could still work. Now, there's many places I would like to visit, and I read about places that people move and why people move there, and they sound lovely. But I cannot get myself to move from where I live. I enjoy the area I live in. I have friends for decades here. My family's here. My granddaughter's here. I'm close to the mountains, the bay, the ocean, Baltimore City, Washington, D.C., Virginia. So we call it Maryland Little America because we have like a representation of many things that you find across America. So I can't find another place I'd rather live.
So that's how I mean that's always good to have, like to kind of I guess be around things you love and that make you happy. Do you think like maybe like if you ever like tell someone like if they're maybe not in the greatest like I guess maybe mental mind state, like would you ever suggest like a move from their current situation?
By mindset, are there things there that are making it difficult for them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like in a sense, like maybe they're just, I guess, kind of depressed, or it's like you feel like there's a need for change, but they don't, I guess, maybe act on maybe they know there's a need for change, but they don't act on the need.
Hmm. Maybe they could try visiting somewhere to see how they feel. Like when I went to visit this place for a week, how did it feel to be out of that environment? When I go back to that environment, how did that feel? And that can give you a lot of information about the load that you're living under. If it's a lot of pressure or worry or obligations that are too much. Um, So I would start with maybe a mini break and see how that feels. Because moving has a lot of pieces to it. There's an expense, there's, what are you going to do for work, making new friends. So what is it that needs to change? Is it really a whole move, or is it doing some things that are different to set boundaries for yourself?
Let's see. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose?
Gandhi comes to mind. It's the first person that popped into my mind.
Yeah, that's usually what I go off of too, just whatever pops in my head.
Mhm.
All right. What was your favorite subject in school?
Art, photography was my favorite subject in high school.
What were I guess what was your favorite part of those?
What was my favorite part of art?
Yeah, like I guess like why was it your favorite?
Um, I guess it was a rest from the academic side of my brain to be creative, and I find joy and relaxation both at the same time in it. And it's something that you kind of get into the zone. So, and some people find that with sports, other people find it with hiking, or there's different ways to get into that zone. But when you're there, you're so immersed in your activity that all of the problems of the world or your life or any worries kind of disappear. And it's all about just what you're doing at that moment.
Let's see. What do you think your favorite trip you've taken is?
My favorite trip. Well, one of my favorite trips was to Mexico with my family because they enjoyed it way more than I expected them to. So that was really fun to, it was my first trip to Mexico too. And we did have a lot of fun there. But it was really cool to see how much fun we all had, not just me.
What do you think the best part about Mexico was?
Well, I'm a beach lover, and this year they had a lot of seaweed, but the place I was staying had crews that cleaned it up, so the beach was pretty crystal clean. And also we explored a little bit, did a trip in a lazy river, um, took a trip on a boat. So went to a couple different parts, and we did a cooking class where we they took us to the market and we bought our ingredients, and then we learned how to create a mole sauce and they taught us how to make homemade tortillas and things. So that was a lot of fun.
Let's see here. Do you think you're an introvert or an extrovert?
I thought I was an introvert because I like to read and I like my downtime, but when I did that test, I found out I was actually in the middle because I love my alone time and I need my downtime, but I also love my social life and being engaged socially. So I would say that I'm a mix.
Yeah, I've taken those tests and it says I'm an introvert, but I think I've learned how to or at least I'm still working on like learning how to interact with people like because sometimes I do really enjoy my downtime. Sometimes I don't want to answer the phone. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah. And I think one of the differences is, do you get energized by being around people, or do you get drained and depleted by being around people? That's one of the differences I see between the two.
Yeah, I mean, I was always told I was an introvert, but I don't really like talking to people, but I would say like I do get energy from around people, but there are times when I'm around like if I'm for one, like if I'm around people for too long, then it's like, okay, now I don't feel like doing anything. It's like, get away from me. Like it's one of those. I'm like,
Need
I
time to
feel
recharge.
yeah, I feel like everyone has those moments there, or at least a lot of the people I know in my life are like,
Yes, they
okay,
do.
downtime. All right. What do you think? Where do you think your life will be in 5 years?
Where will my life be in 5 years? Well, I think it'll be similar to what it is like now, perhaps a little bit more travel.
Let's see.
So,
Um, ooh, a good one. Let's see. What's one thing your business did that you didn't expect?
what's one thing my business did that I did not expect? I guess I didn't realize the variety that would be available to me. Um, Having the clinical degree that I have opened up lots of doors that I could have taken advantage of. Some of them I didn't. And then it also gave me a good underpinning for this reinvention that I have gone through working in the coaching world. So I'm very grateful for that.
Like did you have any like expectations, I guess, in terms of like when you started to maybe how it is now?
Say the question again.
So did you have any like expectations kind of like maybe when you looked like a few years down the line, did you have any like when I guess when you were like looking at your career, did you like have the expectations like, oh, I'm gonna be doing this maybe in 5 years to kind of like I guess what it is now, like did those expectations I guess come true?
I think I'm doing now what I thought I'd start out doing, but also even, the coaching side was not in my frame of reference. So just, being a private practitioner of therapy is what I thought I would do in the beginning, but I got a job in the school system and wound up having a career that I love there. So I still did private practice, but in a much smaller way, just like one evening, sometimes 2 evenings a week. Um, but I always had in my heart to be a private practitioner. So I'm really doing what I had set out to do now and more than I thought back then.
And what do you feel is a common myth about your field?
Common myth. Maybe that by talking to us, we are going to know everything that we need to know to help you. We really need the person that's working with us to get to a point where they trust us enough to be able to tell us things that help us to understand what is going on for them. And I think that's especially important in relationship counseling, that if you're going into, say, marriage counseling, each partner has to be willing to be open to share what's going on, what they're looking for, what they need, so that you get a full picture. Because if you don't feel comfortable, you might wonder why we didn't work on something.
Let's see. What is like the biggest challenge you're facing um, right now, and how are you tackling it?
Um, every once in a while, you get someone that you're working with that are having very significant problems, and you use your skills, but you feel like you're hitting a brick wall. So, staying with the clients through those challenges um, can be very difficult because the whole idea is that you want to see improvement for them. You want them to feel better. You want them to reach their goals. But it's not on our agenda, like as a therapist or as a coach. They have to get to a point where they're ready for those things. And they have to get to a point where they can see their choices in a clear way. And sometimes that's hard for people to do. We don't know, I guess Jung would say, the shadow side of us. We are operating out of parts of ourselves that we don't know are there, which give us a story that can block us.
Let's see. What is the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
That boundaries are essential for balance and health. Because as a person who helps other people through coaching and through therapy, you have to model self-care like you're hoping the people you're helping will do. And sometimes that might be the way you create your schedule. It might be quality of lifestyle over financial success. Like, how much money do I need to make and how much time am I going to invest versus how much downtime do I need? How much self-care time do I need? You can get very close to people, but in a therapeutic relationship, the boundaries protect you and your client because your relationship is specific. It's not as a friend. It's not someone you interact with outside of your practice. So you have to keep all of those things in mind with your family. Like, how you said when you've been around people, sometimes you need rest. Well, when do we need rest? And where do we go for support? So all of these boundaries and self-care issues are very important.
Uh, in your opinion, what is the most important personality trait or I guess strength someone would need to work in your industry?
Non-judgmental curiosity.
And like I guess what about like the non like because I always like at least for me growing up there was always kind of that like they were curious but it was kind of they didn't mean it in a malice way. It was just more of like they were curious and just kind of it came off judgmental. Like what more do you mean like a judgmental curiosity? And I guess kind of like going I guess through like schooling, do you feel like you had that judgmental curiosity, like I guess kind of it was kind of judgmental and then it kind of faded after?
No, I believe that I had a very diverse experiences in life that made me a little less judgmental than other people. And but I do think that grew even stronger over time, especially with education and training. Um, so the more you understand about brain science, the more um, understanding you have for people because It's not always about you and how you're feeling when you're interacting with someone. It's more about has gone on in their life as to what's happening in the interaction. And, understanding there's different cultural perspectives that people are coming to you with. And, having the curiosity to understand what their cultural experience is. It's different than mine, and I'm never going to understand it completely, but I have to have the curiosity and the open mindedness to learn about what it is like for them. And that, just because something's not the way I would live my life, have respect for the way that they live their life and what their feelings are about what they go through. And I find that very fascinating too, that there are so many different types of cultural experiences that people are raised in, and that, so many choices that people have in life for the way they're going to live, for what they expect in a partner, for what they believe about themselves, for how their experiences affect their judgment on the world or their life and where they are in life. If you're feeling judgmental about that, it's going to be hard to help them. And like you said, they're going to feel it. And it takes conscious effort and intention to work with people to let them know that you're a person that they can trust. You're a person that they can share these things with, because in the general world, they may not be able to talk about their experience with anybody else. It's really a gift. I feel honored that people would trust me in that way, and I treat it like that.
Do you feel like anyone in your field? Do you feel like that's kind of how they should treat it too? Kind of like like I guess like as an honor that someone would want to I guess share with you what's kind of going on.
I think I can't speak for all people in my field, but I believe that many people in my field feel very similar to that. And I'm sure there are people who don't. And I would not recommend those people.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's see. Who do you feel like has been an important like professional like mentor in your life? Or I guess maybe even a role model if you've never met them in person.
So in my transitioning to coaching, I joined a group of women that were all learning together. And when that program was over, we have continued our weekly meetings as a group. And that has been a profound experience, because I have never had that amount of professional support through a group of like-minded professionals. And I find it very powerful. So I would encourage people to look for places where they can find that if they don't have that in their career.
And let's see. At what time of day do you think you get your best work done?
Probably the morning. That's why I set my schedule up that way.
Do you feel like you're a morning person or like a night owl or maybe kind of in between?
That's a funny one. I think I tend towards being a night owl, but what I don't like about being a night owl is I want to also have my day. So, I like getting up and having time to myself. I like getting some things done in the morning that make me feel good about my business and about my self care. I really enjoy that. Um, and I'm excited that I can prioritize it that way. So I'm probably trained myself to be less of a night owl, but if I go on vacation, it starts to swap, you know, staying up late or sleeping in.
Yeah, I always tell people like I'm not a morning person, but I get up in the morning because I got stuff like I got things to do. I
Exactly.
can't be up I can't be in bed at like 11 o'clock in the morning. I should probably get up now. I usually I have to like get up at like 5 or 6 and I'm like, okay, so I can get everything done, make sure things are done. But yeah. And then what other occupation other than your own would would you think would be like that you would try?
Being a photographer would have been fun. That's still a hobby that I love. I take way too many pictures. Um, so I think that would be a lot of fun. And I'd like to do more of it in my spare time as well.
And then what are I guess three books you'd recommend to the audience and why?
Well, when you talk about reinventing yourself, I think Atomic Habits is a really good one just because it helps you to understand how habits work and to work with the brain science of working with your mind and body together, starting out small, rewarding yourself. So if you're trying to reinvent yourself in some way, that would probably be a great book to read. Um, if you have a feeling of wanting to understand the effects of trauma from your own experience or because of people you care about, The Body Keeps Score is a really good book. Um, I'm not sure I can remember the name of it, but like understand about finances, learn about setting some financial goals for yourself. And the younger you are, the better, so that you're setting a little bit aside for your future and you're enjoying your life, but you're also doing it in a way where you're not a slave to the debt industry.
All right. And then what are three other podcasts you'd recommend and why? Or I guess that you just like to listen to in general if you listen to podcasts.
A lot of the podcasts that I listen to are really industry based. So I like to watch podcasts of coaches sharing information either to the general public or to professionals like myself because I learn so much and it's something like if I read, I tend to read for enjoyment or listen to books on Audible. And podcasting is for the professional podcasting, it's something that I can do in small bite sizes as I'm doing other things.
All right. And then the last question I have for you is where can listeners find you online or I guess just kind of find more about you just in general?
Mm-hmm. My business is breaking through with Bridgitte.com. And if you add the slash and workbook at the end, there's a little sample of the work that I work with people on for self regulating, challenging thoughts, and returning to joy. Also, that's the website, so you can find out about therapy or coaching. And I'm on Facebook under the same name, Instagram, and LinkedIn, Breaking Through with Bridgitte.
All right. And that is actually all I have for you today. Um, I appreciate you being on the show and actually being like a great guest. Not being rude and anything like that because I've had that problem. But thank you. And
Very well.
thank you guys for listening, and I will see you guys next week. And thank you again.
Thanks. Nice working with you. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.